Pod, episode 3. We got 3 special guests today. I'm joined by Max from the Toffee Blues, a season ticket holder for Everton, and Pat, a depressed Spurs fan, especially after losing the Champions League final. I'm sorry I had to mention that.
Nice one. Appreciate that.
And grown man Ricky, a diehard Interista. So yeah, guys, thanks for being here, and let's get started. Max, I'll start with you. What are your expectations for Everton this season, and are you excited about the Kean transfer?
Yeah, of course. I'm extremely excited about the Kean transfer, probably more so than any incoming so far this season. But finally, obviously, a man that we're going to go on to talk about, Romelu Lukaku. It seems that there are a lot of parallels between, the transfer of Kean from Juventus to Everton and when Romelu Lukaku went from Chelsea to Everton. Similar transfer fee, and by all accounts and from what I've seen, seemed like similar players around the same age. In regards to Everton's, prospects in the Premier League season, as a collective group, we are viewed as rather, a group of moaners. Really, we're realists. We see what we can expect, and we're not going to get too ahead of ourselves. We'd absolutely love to try and gate crash that top 6, but 7th, it seems like, is the most realistic target.
If I'll put you on the spot right now, if you had to call out the top 4 in England, who would it be?
Top 4, Manchester City, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Chelsea.
All right. And one more question for you. Are you still getting over the loss for the Liverpool Champions League final? How are you feeling about that?
Mate, I'm absolutely fine about it. At the time, obviously, I was gutted. But, however, in my lifetime, I'm 20 years old. I've seen them make a couple of Champions League couple of Champions League finals. Some they've been the favourite, some they haven't been the favourite. And going into this game against Tottenham, I'm sorry, Pat, but it's safe to say I do think they were the favourite going into that game.
I can't deny that.
As soon as they got that penalty in the first minute, it was like, here we go again, same old Liverpool. And I'm over it, mate.
To be honest with you, if it happened to an Inter fan, for example, if Milan were playing the final and they won, which happened in my lifetime, of course, and I mean, it's tough to get over it, but it's more of a bad blood, I guess. The same thing happened in 2010 when Inter won the Champions League. Milanisti were all jealous and stuff like that. And we're the last team to win in Italy, the Champions League finals.
Of course.
So, yeah, we're proud of that.
And the only one to win yet, huh?
Hey, but since Mourinho left, it's been a disaster.
Yeah.
Pat, on to you, because Spurs are making some big moves right now. Which transfers are you expecting to go down on the last day, let's say? There's 48 hours left, right?
Yep. Yep. Well, no, less even now. There's less than 24 hours. I think it closes at 5 p.m. on Thursday. Is that right? Can anyone?
Yeah, that's
right. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I think it's 5. Yeah. Anyway, I know there's less than 24 hours left. And I think that Tottenham are going to push 2 deals over the line. I'm pretty confident about that. With Lo Celso, apparently the 2 clubs, Real Betis and Tottenham, have finally agreed terms after a long time of negotiation with Daniel Levy, which is never easy. And obviously, the BBC came out just before it was almost certain that there was a 92% chance of Lo Celso joining Spurs on the last day.
Sorry, how does the system work? I'm really curious. Sorry to interrupt you. Like 92% chance. Like, does only BBC do this or something like that? Why 92?
Well, they're taking these figures off betting websites. So they're taking it off. It's actually the odds, basically. I can't think the odds is 1 for 12 or something like that. And obviously, maths isn't my strong suit, so they did the transition themselves into saying that it's 92% chance that it is going to happen. And I'd say, honestly, that would have increased by now because the clubs have apparently agreed terms since then, about maybe like 20, 40 minutes ago.
Okay.
So that's But on top of that, we have Ryan Sessegnon coming in to further strengthen our right back position after Trippier left to to Atletico Madrid earlier this season. And also, again, for whatever it means, it's a 90% chance of that, according to the BBC again. So I am looking forward to it. I think it's 2 really important signings that we need to make to add on to Ndombele.
I was going to say just a few hours ago, well, actually an hour ago, it was already reported that Lukaku is joining Inter. And Max, with you being a season ticket holder for Everton, did you get to witness Lukaku in his early days at Everton?
Yeah, I did. He had a terrific season the season prior to joining Everton on loan at West Bromwich Albion. I think he scored 17 league goals for them, including a really highly coveted hat trick. I think it was a hat trick in a 5-5 draw against Manchester United in Sir Alex Ferguson's last game. In terms of actually getting him over the line and getting him to sign for Everton on loan, it didn't happen until the final day of the summer transfer window in 2013. I think Everton were, originally contacted Chelsea hoping to acquire Demba Ba, but they said no to that and said, but you can have Romelu Lukaku on loan, and we snapped the hands off for it in his first season. Obviously, come as a young raw 20-year-old lad, and his talent was there for all to see. And as I've said to you previously, Elvis, for me, I've seen a young Wayne Rooney who is certainly up there, but Lukaku was the best striker I've seen in an Everton shirt in my lifetime. Scored 2 goals in his first Merseyside derby. A host of really important goals in big games. Was part of a really, really important spine of a side, I felt, in John Stones at centre-half and Ross Barkley at central attacking midfield, with Lukaku leading the line. I felt he developed a really, fluid relationship in terms of, knowing where Ross Barkley was on the pitch. Ross Barkley knew where he was on the pitch, and they assisted each other several times. I think Gerard Deulofeu was also a player that you need to include in having a tremendous relationship with Romelu Lukaku. And, it was there to all to see from his early days. That was the type of striker that he was. When I was younger, when I was back in high school, I did my work experience at Finch Farm, which was Everton's training ground, around the Christmas period of Lukaku's first season. And I was lucky enough to basically be the little errand boy for the first team, and just to observe Lukaku in that environment behind closed doors. He was very much a student of the game. He'd always be talking to coaches about strikers he'd want to emulate. I remember one time him saying a striker who I'd imagine you guys would be really familiar with, Luca Toni, that he wanted to try and emulate the style of play of Luca Toni. His work ethic on the training field was absolutely incredible. All the things he tried hand at, including free kicks, although he's not a player that's associated with taking free kicks, he's always go out and take extra practice in terms of taking free kicks. So, his appetite for the game is absolutely huge. He went on to make 4 seasons at Everton. Obviously, I think his relationship with the club kind of bittered as those seasons went on. After his third, Roberto Martinez, the manager that brought him in, left, and we had Ronald Koeman. And I think, having Ronald Koeman at our football club was the start of our kind of spiral into some dark, dark days. And, the aforementioned players, Barkley, Stones, Lukaku, all jumped ship to European caliber sides. I'd make the case for Stones and Barkley that they jump to clubs that are going to further their development, as proven by the fact that they've already won trophies. I think Lukaku's won a FA Cup, if I'm not wrong. However, as I'm sure you guys are familiar with, he receives a lot more criticism than he does praise from the Man United fans, and from Man United being a more speculated club from a media standpoint. He's received a lot more criticism.
I was actually, well, that's impressive. First of all, I was always of the belief that it was Man United responsible for his poor performances, not Lukaku himself. Even though I'm still skeptical about his first touch. I've seen him play with Belgium, Man United, and I don't know, he seems a bit clumsy to me. Ricky, are you ecstatic about the transfer to Inter?
I mean, of course I'm ecstatic, but only because we have Longo and Puskás. Actually, we sold Puskás, but we basically have no strikers, so this is better than nothing. But of course, I think he's a really good player. I mean, he has 120 goals in the Premier League at 26 years old. Those are not small numbers. So yeah, unfortunately, we're gonna have to get rid of Icardi now, which I mean, in my opinion, is good because he's betrayed the club. But that's a long story. I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah, this is a Premier League episode.
But yeah, Lukaku's. Yeah. I'm just going to talk about Lukaku. Don't worry. But I think Lukaku is just what we need. I mean, if you look at our friendlies against Man U, against Spurs, and Juve, we really lacked that strong, tall striker at the end just to finish crosses, just to maybe even stop the ball and play behind, even though that's what probably Dzeko's going to do at Inter if we get him. But I think Lukaku is a really good signing. I mean, the fee is a bit high considering he's had such a poor season at Man United and he won it out. So they did manage to get a lot for him. I think it's about 75 million euros,
Wow.
which is less than what they paid for him. But and if I'm not mistaken, Everton are getting some percentage of that as well.
I'd imagine so. He left. I think he left for around £75 million. I think that was plus. I think it was around up to 10 to 20 in add-ons. But yeah, I think they are losing money on him, which of course I think is a bitter pill to swallow for Manchester United. But in terms of the directions of both club, I think it is smart to do business. I think when Romelu Lukaku's gone to Manchester United, I think off the back of being at Everton, he was the man. I think he's gone to Manchester United still kind of wanting to be the man. However, he's one of many at Manchester United. I think there's a real awkward semblance of attacking talent at Manchester United. You've got Marcus Rashford, you've got Anthony Martial, you've got Alexis Sanchez, you've got Jesse Lingard, trying to accommodate and facilitate all those players into a system that's feasible and that plays to the strengths of each individual. I just don't think it's been possible. With Romelu Lukaku, he's a tremendous one-touch finisher, tremendous target man, quite, a relatively high football intelligence. And he said several times throughout his career, which, rubbed a lot of fans up the wrong way, specifically during international breaks, that he'd like a move to Italy at some point in his career. So, this looked like the opportunity for him.
Yeah, let's stay on Man United a bit because I'm really curious about the club. Because since Sir Alex Ferguson left, it's been a disaster. What's going on there? Can somebody explain me, please?
I think it starts from the very base of the club. It starts much higher up than players and management, but it starts at the very beginning, near the chairman and near Ed Woodward. I think that it's really hard to tell from an outsider's perspective because obviously it's difficult to get that inside knowledge. But I know, for example, when Mourinho was there, he was suggesting things to Ed Woodward on how to manage the club. He was suggesting sporting directors. Actually, the one, I can't remember his name, but the one who recruited João Felix before he obviously got big and was sold off to Atletico for over 100 million. But he was suggesting all sorts of important staff behind the scenes that Ed Woodward was actually turning down because apparently, these are rumors, of course, but he really wants to have that monopoly of power within the club. And so now you've created this sort of, from a lack of good performances, you've also created this whole kind of movement of, I don't know if you've seen it, but Glazers out. And United fans, I mean, United is such a huge club that has had such great history so recently. People often forget how good they were so recently. So, I mean, they are greedy. They are a little bit spoilt, but they have reason to be so. I think with everything they've been given to come down to this point now, they must be worried now because their whole philosophy, their whole business model is built off winning trophies. And if they continue for another decade in this way, where big players come in and want to leave, or big players like Dybala don't want to go there and stuff, they'll start losing fan bases around the world and in Asia and stuff, which, I mean, I know it's a long way down the line, but it's a start for bad things. But of course, I mean, football, these things happen. It's a cycle. It's like Arsenal and things. I do think they'll come back within time, but it needs to start so much higher up than we can imagine, I think. And on top of that, personally, I think the manager choice, Ole, was a pretty childish and immature option to pick him because he really does, in my opinion, he has very little experience. And the experience he does have was with Cardiff, which went pretty terribly. And I think United is a club that deserves much bigger names that people who know how to do, not just ex-players, people who know how to do things in the long term. I mean, you look at City and even Pep and names like Carlo Ancelotti, kind of these kind of names kind of stand out to me as managers. They should really be looking for high-profile Champions League experienced, and long-term plan managers. So I mean, that's my take on it. Yeah, go ahead, man.
I was just going to say, can I present a counter argument to that? And to your point, I would agree in that rather than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they probably should have went to Mauricio Pochettino.
They should have,
yeah. I'd agree 100% on that. However, fast forward, go back to when Jose Mourinho was in charge. Obviously, we did accumulate some trophies there, but there was huge concerns from both being the powers that be and the fans that it wasn't in commas the United way. It was Jose Mourinho trying to turn Manchester United into a Jose Mourinho team. He's a very autocratic leader. He had he has a methodology for success, and that usually works. However, as I said, that given the assemblance of players at Manchester United, and I would argue the reason why they are in the situation that they are in is that post Sir Alex Ferguson, they didn't build from the back. You're seeing now that they've just got Harry Maguire in. I would argue they should have started from that role in the years back. So you've got your likes of your Pogbas, your Lukaku's, your Sanchez's, these players and these no make two ways about it. They're the stars coming from where they're coming from. They have a high social media following, a huge brand, a huge pull that should be expected from Manchester United. However, when put under that autocratic leadership of Mourinho, it just didn't fly. So you counteract that with someone like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who is very democratic. He's the complete flip side to that coin, who also has an emotional connection to Manchester United, to the fans. Obviously, he's the hero of that Champions League triumph back in '99. To almost give that feel-good factor back about the place. And, to be fair, I can't remember exactly. I think it was upwards somewhere in the regions of about 17. His winning streak when he first joined the club.
Yeah.
However, as you say, that real lack of experience, it just got exposed as time went on, and it did really look like Manchester United have appointed FC Molde's manager.
Yeah, well, I think that I think it's ever since the peak of Sir Alex Ferguson, I think that the chair lost all hope and all trust really in managers, because you look at David Moyes, and I don't think David Moyes is the best manager by a long mile, but you look back now, and David Moyes was someone who actually wanted to sign Harry Maguire. I don't know if you guys saw reports about that, but he was looking to sign Harry Maguire for $4 million. And Sir Alex Ferguson left recommendations for the club to buy. But in their first season, David Moyes made it pretty clear years after he left, that he was finding it very difficult to work with his chair. And in the end, Fellaini was the only signing they made in that first transfer window. And he said that would be the only signing he could have made. It was either that or nothing, basically. And so I do think it's a line of bad managers, but I think it's maybe a lack of trust ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left. Because Ferguson suggested Royce and Gundogan be signed in the season that he left, which back then I think would have been pretty perfect signings, especially with how Gundogan is now. And granted, Royce has been through some injuries, but he's still a top class player. But yeah, I do think they lost a lot of trust, and ever since Sir Alex Ferguson's days. But I still do think it'll come around in time.
And they did sign Maguire for £70 million the other day, and they're looking to sign Icardi Williams from Athletic Bilbao with the money that they got for Lukaku. So I was actually looking into the transfer targets for all the teams. I was really surprised when I came to Liverpool that they signed nobody. I understand that they're the best team in the world by winning the Champions League, but you always need that one player to spice things up. Do you see Liverpool having a big year this year with the same team, with Klopp?
Who's that a question for?
Yeah, Max, sorry. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've watched any of the Coaches' Voices series, but I watched the episode of Jose Mourinho who said sometimes, and I think he was talking specifically about his the European triumphs that he had with his Porto side. He said sometimes the best business that a team or a club can do is keep together the side that was victorious, and I take stock in that. I do believe that is a true statement. I would. It's not just me being an Evertonian. I would contend that point that they're the best team in the world. I think, without a shadow of a doubt, I think that best side is Manchester City at the moment, given the dynasty that they are building. Liverpool's success, however, I do feel has hinged entirely on Jurgen Klopp. I was a huge admirer of Klopp during his time with Borussia Dortmund. You mentioned two players at Borussia Dortmund that played under him there in Royce and in Gundogan. And obviously he come up short. I think that was 2013 against Bayern Munich at Wembley. So that was the closest he came prior to winning the Champions League. But he hit the nail on the head. I think what is 4 years now at Liverpool, and just little signings almost. So signings like your James Milners, your Xherdan Shaqiri's, those who have that that Champions League pedigree and have won big trophies before as just squad players. I think they are a real key element of the side. My question marks, however, remain over the fact whether or not Liverpool will continue to be major challenges for the Premier League. I think that will be interesting to see that unfold. I think obviously that is just bread and butter for Manchester City, and it almost felt like the season just gone. It was almost as if Liverpool's hitting hope. Their first title in around 30 years, and they've still come up short. Whether all the gas will be gone, and they don't know if they can assault another challenge, as close as last year. It remains to be seen.
What's the situation now with Man City? Because I heard they were supposed to be banned from Champions League. That was the rumors like a month ago or so. Because Milan got banned. I know that Chelsea's transfer market got banned. They cannot sign anybody. And what's the situation with Man City? I haven't heard from it.
I'm not 100% sure. I've just actually spent the summer gone working at Manchester City with some of the academy kids. But I don't think that's the case. I know they've always been intertwined with legal battles with UEFA, given that the fact that they are new money. I think financial fair play regulation was literally introduced to stop new money clubs such as your Manchester Cities, such as your PSGs, rise into prominence. Hence where we are today. I feel I've got no doubt that there'll be continuing legal battles over the years between UEFA and Manchester City, but surely I can't see them being banned from the Champions League.
All right, Pat, I'm gonna get back to you. I want to know your let's say top 7 teams.
Top 7?
Yeah, top 7.
Top 7, okay. It's not too far off what Max was saying earlier. I do think City will clinch it again. Because they have made a couple of reinforcements, and of course people have forgotten about him, I think, but De Bruyne is back, who is such a huge part of that team, such an integral part of that team. Second, I think, is Liverpool. Again, no reinforcements, but I think it's going to be a bigger margin between City and Liverpool than it was this season, unfortunately, to be honest. Third will be Spurs, I think. And then fourth, I'm taking a gamble here, but I think it will be Arsenal. And that's not so much as a credit to Arsenal, and not just because I'm a Spurs fan, but so much as it is kind of, I don't think United and Chelsea will do well at all. I think United will finish 5th and Chelsea 6th, mainly because of Lampard being, I know he's a very clever man. He's one of the highest IQs in the UK, for whatever that's worth. And he does have a transfer ban, and he isn't wholly experienced either. And seventh's a tough one, but I think it's going to be clinched by Wolves, as much as
Max, are you pissed?
But I do think it'll be Wolves. Wolves again. I mean, such a great team with such a great manager, and they've made so many solid signings again this season. With of course, with Patrick Cutrone, who I'm sure you two aren't so much of a fan of, given his history. But I just think they made such great signings and everything. And they can really just improve on last season. And of course, they got Jimenez down on the long term, which is also such a great move for that club. So yeah, that's my top 7 anyway. United and Chelsea will be missing out on Champions League, I believe.
Interesting. Max, sorry that I asked you before your top 4. Give me your top 7. I mean, maybe Everton will clinch in somewhere?
Yeah, I'd say so, mate. So my top 4 before was Manchester City, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Chelsea. I'd go 5th, Arsenal. 6th. I really feel like Everton need to the one wounded down animal I feel like to take out of the top 6 equation is Manchester United. Everton absolutely trounced them at Goodison Park at the back end of last season, absolutely demolished them 4-0. And it just seemed like an absolute shambles of a Manchester United side with no real soul or ability to pull themselves together. However, I do feel like, you see almost the profile of the player that they're bringing in. It seems to be British, grounded, those type of players, Harry Maguire, Daniel James. I've got to say, I do feel like they'll probably finish 6th, and I'll back our lads to get 7th this season. Although I do fully credit Wolves as probably being one of the best promoted sides I've seen.
Ricky, do you want to do the top 7?
Yeah, but I don't want to say this, but Max, I think Liverpool are going to win the league, so I'm going to go against everyone here. But I hope I'm wrong for your case. But I think it's just they've won the Champions League, and Klopp has promised, and the players have promised the city of Liverpool their league after 30 years? It's been 3 decades. That's insane to think about that. But I think Manchester City are really going to focus on Champions League this year because Guardiola is just obsessed with winning that now at this point. He wants to win it outside of Barcelona to prove himself, because a lot of people are starting to say, yeah, but without Messi, you can't really win in Europe, can you? So, yeah, I think Liverpool are going to win the league, but it's going to be close. I think City 2nd, then Spurs 3rd, just because they're such a solid team. They could even sneak in maybe 2nd, we'll see. But, yeah, City and Liverpool are just are still a step ahead of everyone, I think. I'm going to go 4th, Arsenal as well. I think Pepe is going to be interesting, and maybe if they sign a centre-back, they could make that CL spot. And I agree with Pat and that Manchester United are just going to crumble into Chelsea because of the ban. Although Maguire and Wan-Bissaka especially is a very interesting signing. I think he looked really good in preseason. I think he's going to do very well in Man United. But I think, Chelsea and Man U are going to miss top 4. And 7th, I'm going to put Wolves if they don't make Europa League, because I feel like if they make Europa League, they might have a shot at it a bit, because I think they're one of the best teams in Europa League. And then Everton 7th if Wolves don't do that well in Europa. If they basically sacrifice Europa League, then probably Everton 7th.
All right. 2 more questions for Max and Pat, and we're out of here. Max, breakout player of the year and top goal scorer.
In the Premier League?
Yes.
I'll get me top goal scorer out the way. Sergio Aguero. I genuinely believe Sergio Aguero is the best striker that the Premier League has ever seen. You see in the, over I'd say the last 5 years, you've got your Harry Kane, your Mohamed Salah, Aubameyang. However, I think rewind the clock even further back, 10 years or so, Aguero has still always been up there and always seems to be turning in 15, 20 plus goals a season. So I don't know, it's almost as if a safe bet getting away with it to say Sergio Aguero. Me breakout star, I could be a little football nerd and give you someone way out of left field, but again, I'm on here repping Everton, so I'm going to have to go with Moise Kean. I just feel like it's there for him to grasp with both hands. As I said, it seems to years have gone by now and Everton haven't found an amicable replacement for Romelu Lukaku. We've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin there, who I think is getting given that coveted number 9 shirt this season. He's come on leaps and bounds this last season just gone. However, I just feel like that killer 1v1 instinct that all strikers need just isn't polished yet. From seeing some of the finishes of Moise Kean last season for Juventus, the kid looks like he knows how to finish. Given his given service on a plate with the players around him, like Gylfi Sigurdsson, Bernard, Richarlison, and who knows, by the end of these next few days could even be Wilfried Zaha. But he may be second choice striker for the first couple of months of the season. But when there's a lot of football to be played in and around that Christmas, January period, hopefully goals could come in abundance.
What about you, Pat?
Yeah, I'll start off with the goal scorer again as well. This is a tough one because I don't want to I don't want to give away any sort of credibility I have.
Let me guess, Harry Kane.
But it's gonna be, I won't be that keen. I think it's gonna be really close again, as it usually is. I think Salah is going to be up there. I think Aguero will be up there, as will probably Aubameyang and Kane. But I think that Kane, I hate to say it because I'm a Tottenham fan, but I think that Kane has so much to prove this year. In that he came back, he's coming in from a tough year last year. I know through a lot of injury and stuff, but big players need to show that they can come back from injury. And he was perfectly fine for the Champions League final. I have my doubts about that, but anyway, he had a really, really poor, probably the worst performance I've ever seen him have. Was in that Champions League final, the most important game of his life, possibly. So I think he has a lot to come back from. And I've been following him and obviously the whole team in preseason, and he has had a solid preseason. He's kind of finding his goal scoring touch again, and he's looking in incredible shape. So I do think he's out here to prove something, and I think he'll have the backup this year again to go out there and do that. For my breakout player, is it?
Yeah.
I think there's a whole bunch of new ones coming in now. I think not so much breakout, but I think Phil Foden is going to have a big season.
Mm-hmm.
He's praised by Pep Guardiola, saying something like he's one of the best players he's ever seen, with some of the most skill, despite having managed, Messi, of course. I do think he'll have a much bigger season than he did last. I think he'll be given more game time and all that. But probably one that's not so obvious would be Mason Greenwood.